I'm going to first turn the discussion over to Sue John, head of Healthworx Accelerator, to give a little bit more background on this approach.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Hi, everyone. My name is Sue. I'm with Healthworx, the investment arm of CareFirst, BlueCross, BlueShield. We work with startups in every point of their life cycle. So what this means is that we have a pillar that builds businesses from scratch and brings them to market. We have our accelerator where we work with pre-seed and seed stage companies to help scale their growth more meaningfully. And then we also have more strategic investments, right, at a later stage. And also we're LPs to a number of institutional VC funds that can typically move a bit faster than us. So we really cover the entire life cycle of a startup from start to finish. I think for our conversations today, I think we wanted to kind of hone in on the importance of collaborating, right, with the strategic arm when it comes to closing the gap between early stage startups that move really fast and sometimes don't even really know what they're missing, and then getting them to a point where they're partnering with the enterprise to have real world impact to the members that we serve, and then the broader ecosystem. Today I want to focus on two of our colleagues at CareFirst. They've both championed a few of our cohort companies to have real impact to our members, and wanted to frame the conversation around that.
So Piyush, as Vice President of Health Services in CareFirst, you've stood up a pilot within CareFirst alongside Healthworx Accelerator cohort company. What does that look like in practice? And can you take us along inside that journey?
Thanks, Melinda. Good afternoon. It's great to be here. As Melinda said, I lead a team of professionals that support operational transformation. One of the functions we perform is also clinical enablement, and also really looking at the experience side of the member and provider journey as it pertains to medical management function within CareFirst. So one of the opportunities that we found that we were looking for a scalable solution around, as part of medical management, we have care management function that we perform within CareFirst. And if you look at how we go about doing care management, it's still very telephonic. We have a vast outreach to our members and our providers through telephonic conversations. If I'm going to have a conversation around, say, a discharge, post-discharge call, or a CKD conversation, CHF conversation, the care manager has to prepare prior to getting on the phone call, putting a clinical protocol or care plan together. Then they actually get on the telephone, talk to the member, and the repeatability, consistency of that conversation around these various disease conditions, and then finally documenting and understanding the conversation with the member, and then either tweaking or staying with the care journey or the clinical protocol that we had set out. That process is today very manual. It takes a lot of time and effort for the care manager to prepare prior, during the conversation, and post the conversation to have, and we do it hundreds and thousands of times every day. And so there was an opportunity to really look at creating a way to reduce some of the operational burden that we had on the care managers, look at ways in which we could have consistency. In a government business, for example, we have to audit and comply with certain percentage of our calls that we have to monitor, and how do we get that consistency. And then, of course, the experience side, constantly our care managers are, can you wait for a second, make sure I can document and note what you just said. So those were some of the problem statements that we were looking, and so we collaborated with the Healthworx team to really look at some of the ideas and companies that were in the portfolio, and created a pilot starting with our government line of business to really enable our care managers using a portfolio company called Verbal to actually go in and start doing conversational AI. So what this tool was able to do is able to look at the care plan that was put together in our care management platform and actually have real world prompts, not after the fact, as the conversation's progressing. So if we are on a transition of care call, the member's getting discharged, and the care manager forgot to ask what meds were prescribed post-discharge, there is a real-world prompt that comes in that says, you know what, you should ask this question, make sure you're getting the meds. Once the meds are, like I say, you know what, I was prescribed Vicodin 30 milligrams 2 times a day, you don't have to go and start writing that information down. Verbal was able to actually take the content, the information that is being presented from the member, and we were able to codify that. So the care manager doesn't have to go back and actually document that back, say, you know what, Piyush said Vicodin 30 milligrams 2 times a day. That information gets, the NDC code gets added directly to the care plan and updated. So what we were able to achieve really was take the problem statement, work with a portfolio company, and we've had tremendous success in all 3 areas that we had set out to achieve. First and foremost, as I said, you know, we were able to take about 31 minutes on average for a care management, not just the call, but the preparation prior and post the conversation to occur. We were able to bring it down to about 8 minutes across this pilot program. So we really reduced about 75% of the time that the care manager was spending. Secondly, we had, as I said, we had to take a certain compliance and audit aspect. We were able to reduce the audit. Now we know exactly which care managers are not following through the clinical protocol, and the questions weren't asked like they should have been asked in the conversation. They are flagged. We can set training protocols for them, but also audit those calls if required. So we're down to about 2% of our calls really being audited versus a larger percentage that we had in the past. And the member experience itself is that the care managers can focus on the member conversation versus trying to look at multiple screens with different systems that they're trying to get information as the conversation is progressing. So we've had, as I said, some success, and we are looking to roll this program, this pilot program, across all of our lines of businesses as we progress, and really looking at this innovative idea that started with a portfolio pilot to really getting to this measurable outcome that we have achieved.
So what Piyush just described is one pilot, one company, one pain point, one result. But if we want more of this, if we want to be how CareFirst operates at scale, what has to change? Josh, as manager of digital products at CareFirst, you've been building the infrastructure to make that possible. What does it actually take to go from one-off to enterprise capability?
Hey, thank you. Yeah, that's a great question. Proving that AI can happen once is very different than creating a repeatable, safe, and scalable enterprise AI solution. We've learned at CareFirst that this is really not a technology challenge. This is a business operating model challenge. And so if you have independent teams doing their own things, you're going to end up with duplicative solutions. You're going to end up with inconsistent review paths. You're going to end up with data privacy and security concerns. You're going to have unclear decision rights. And at the end of the day, when the regulators and the auditors and your customers show up, you're not going to even know where your AI is or be able to tell them how you're controlling it. And so at CareFirst, to move from an AI pilot to an enterprise solution, we had to really think about what was the foundation that we need to establish for that. And so it starts with a governance framework. And that's not governance that stops innovation or slows it down. It's governance that gives people a clear path forward. That's making sure that you know what the decision rights are, that make sure that you're ensuring that you review every single use case, you understand the risks involved with it, and at the end of the day, you make sure that all the stakeholders that need to be involved in these decisions are involved. Second, we set up a platform and standards process. We don't want every single use case team having to go off and create their own security models, their own data processes, their own monitoring regimes. At the end of the day, we want to set clear governance standards where development teams can move fast but still operate within the enterprise guardrails. And finally, we really, what we call the intake to monitoring flow. So how we bring in these use cases, we've used a Healthworx company called Alignment AI. And Alignment's helping us with creating a more streamlined process, transparent process to start to bring in those use cases, analyze them for risk, determine whether we need additional controls, route those controls for approval, and ultimately start to set up the monitoring once these things go into production. That last point is really important. Responsible AI doesn't stop where we go to production. You have to continuously monitor it, continuously evaluate it, make sure that your stakeholders are involved and accountable for owning it, and make sure that it's being used for its intended use. You don't want that drifting. And so these are the kind of things that we've put in place that help us move from that AI pilot to a much more enterprise scaled capability driving AI change at CareFirst.
Well, thank you for showing us how CareFirst turns innovation into real-world impact. Let's leave the audience with 3 key takeaways. Piyush, I'll turn this over to you.
Absolutely. So for the audience, I would say 3 takeaways for me would be, first, having an innovation engine. Everybody is now a AI company. Whether it's a 50-year-old business or a 5-year-old business or a 5-month-old business, everybody's AI. And so how do you have an engine, an accelerator, a framework that you can look to evaluate and help us through that transition is a very important aspect. And Healthworx is that engine that helps us reduce some of the operational risk and take us to pilot faster. The second takeaway is having the ideas and knowing the business pain points with measurable outcomes is also something that should be in place, so that when you are looking at tools and solutions, you know what the success criteria looks like and what the pain point you were trying to resolve. And the third takeaway I would say is, as Josh mentioned, governance is not there to slow us down, but in healthcare in particular, governance is an imperative for us to have scalability, security, reliability, auditability, and having consistency across our processes, and having a human in the loop in a lot of the clinical aspects as well is something that is absolutely an imperative. So as you are looking at innovation, taking strong ideas to measurable outcomes is something that we all should be looking towards as we look at the future in healthcare.